mind is so powerful. And I didn't realize it. I went through 3 hell weeks, Ranger School, Delta Force selection, all this stuff. This incident I'm going to explain to you right now was where I realized we are only at 40% of what we are capable of. Here I am, right idea to do this race called Badwater 135. I Googled the 10 hardest races in the world. What came up? Crazy race in Death Valley. Summertime, 135 miles. I knew nothing about ultra running. I thought you would camp out, run 20 miles. Then one day, then run 20 miles again until you get 135 miles. I had no idea what I was doing. Called the race director up. He's like, hey, have you run 100 miles? I was like, what, in a week or what? What are you talking about? He's like, no, in 24 hours or less. I said, no. He goes, you got to qualify to get in this race. You have to run 100 miles in 24 hours or less. He was trying to call my bluff. I call him up on a Wednesday. He goes, hey, there's a race in San Diego on Saturday where it's a 24-hour race where you run around, a track, a 1-mile track for 24 hours. And if you get 100 miles, I will consider you in my race. It really helps to be smart, people. And I was not smart in this situation. I said, I did the math. It's about a 14-something minute mile. I can do that. Anyway, I show up on Saturday with the blue lawn chair, Ritz Crackers Mileplex, and my ex-wife. And every mile I'm going to see her, I'm going to grab some Ritz Crackers and some Mileplex. I know what the hell I'm doing, but it's bliss. That whole ignorance is bliss thing. So I get to 70 miles pretty damn fast. I get to 70 miles in like 12, 13 hours. What do you think happens to your body when you haven't trained for that kind of mileage? A lot of bad things. But I thought I was in good shape. It was amazing. So I hadn't gone to the bathroom at all. I sit down, big mistake. I sit down in this blue lawn chair. I sit down looking at my ex-wife. I'm seeing like 3 or 4 of her. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is not good. So I'm trying to play it off because I know where I'm about to go. So I'm sitting there, and when you haven't gone to the bathroom, you're dehydrated, your nutrition's all jacked up. You sit down, you got to go to the bathroom now. So I look at my ex-wife and go, do you love me? She said, yes. Why? I go, because I'm going to take a shit on myself right now. Because I can't stand up because my blood pressure's all messed up. So I'm sitting there literally pooping up my back and peeing blood down my leg. She's a nurse, so she's concerned. And I'm telling you right now, there's one thing you never want to hear as a black person. She said, you're starting to turn white. So I'm sitting there, and I'm all jacked up. And I'm like, okay, how in the world am I I got 30 miles to go. I should quit. But I didn't. What I started doing through this whole process was I started to study myself in the dark times. So instead of just quitting real fast, I said, no, I'm going to quit, but not right now. So I sat back for a second, and I said, let me get some water, let me hydrate, let me clean myself up a little bit, let me get some nutrition. I wasn't dizzy. I said, okay. My feet are all messed up. Let me see if I can walk. I'm going to walk 1 mile, and then I'll go home. That'll be a great accomplishment for me, 71 miles. So I took this massive thing, and I started breaking it down into small chunks. And as I started breaking it down into small chunks, I started realizing maybe I'll walk 1 more mile. But at the pace I was walking, I wasn't going to make the time. So this is when I realized the whole 40% rule. Those of you who were, red can't hurt me, you understand it. Basically, the 40% rule is when we have a governor on our brains, like a governor on a car. A car may say 130, but if you put a governor on a car, it can only go 101. We do the same thing to our brains. I was born with limited horizons. born on the other side of the tracks. I didn't think I could be anybody. So my governor was myself. So once you take that governor off, you have limitless horizons. So here I am now, sitting in this chair, walk 75, I'm at 80 miles, but I'm not gonna make the time. The most amazing thing happens. The brain, the mind, the soul, the spirit, it all connected. It's never happened before like this in my entire life. I ran the next 19 miles. I ran about a 10-minute mile. I finished 101 miles in 19 hours and 6 minutes. I'm going to save you how the story ends, because it ends real foul. It ends in a tub with me peeing Coca-Cola out of myself. It was blood. And it was the best feeling I had in my entire life. I'm not sadistic, but when you push yourself to that level and accomplish something you thought was impossible, what happens to your body and mind is something I can't really even explain. This guy right here, that nice big guy right there, that's who I became in 2 years. So between about 21, 22 years old, I gained over 100 pounds. I became extremely depressed. I got out of the military, and I started working for a company called Ecolab, where you go around and you spray for cockroaches. And that's what I did. From 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, I drove a truck around to, Cracker Barrel, all these different places, and I sprayed for cockroaches. And every night on my drive home, or every morning on my drive home, I would stop by 7-Eleven, grab a box of donuts, mini donuts, and I had a nice big large chocolate milkshake, because my last spot to spray down was Steak and Shake. So Steak and Shake, box of mini donuts, and I had a 45-minute commute home. On my way home, listen to the radio, chill out, get home, turn the TV on, take a shower. While I was taking a shower, I listened to the TV. And this particular day, this show came on. I don't know if it's Discovery Channel, History Channel, it doesn't matter. It's a show about Navy SEALs. And those of you know about Navy SEALs, they spend a lot of damn time in the water. And my ass did not like the water. And it haunted me on repeat all the damn time. But this particular day, I decided to come out and see what these Navy SEALs were doing. They're going through training, and they were going through Hell Week. And I saw these guys carrying boats and logs, doing sugar cookies, getting their butt kicked. And the class was just going down and going down and going down in size. And it reminded me of pararescue. And I sat there and I felt this big, because the program went all the way through to graduation, and there was like 18 guys sitting there in their dress whites, and this commanding officer goes up there and he's talking to them. And he said, we live in a society where mediocrity is often the standard. These men detest mediocrity. And at this time, he was speaking directly to me, because I wasn't even mediocre. I was afraid. I was a coward. I lied. I did everything I could to not face who I was. So I had to start putting some purpose behind my suffering. My life was all about suffering back then, from my childhood through grade school, getting bullied, through trying to learn. It was always failure, always roadblocks. And I never put purpose behind it. This is where I changed my mind. I sat there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL. So I leave my house. I go talk to a recruiter. Now, I'm about 297 pounds. And I walk in that place eating. And the recruiter looks at me, because I called him several times. I called several recruiters. The story is so much longer than this. But I called several recruiters. Many of them laughed at me, because I told them, because they say, hey, how much do you weigh? Because you have to be a certain weight to get in the military, height and weight standards. I did not meet those height and weight standards. So I walk into this guy named Steven Saljo. He looks at me. He goes, "You're fat and you're black." I'm like, "Man, you are observant of hell. You are observant man." So he said the black part, because at the time there had only been 35 African Americans ever graduate Navy SEAL training in over 70 years. I didn't know that part, but I didn't care. So he takes me back, does my height weight, does it. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He goes, "Man, you got to lose like 106 pounds. I'm like, "Well, all right." He goes, okay, he goes back, gets all these manuals. Since I was in the Air Force, prior service time, long story short, people, I had 3 months to lose 106 pounds. So I walk out saying this is never going to happen. So when I walk out, I go back to Ecolab, spraying for cockroaches. There's always someone talking to you in this world. Are you listening? This day I was. So I'm in the back of this restaurant, and I can't tell you the name because I signed a confidentiality agreement. So I'm in the back of this kitchen, and I'm spraying for cockroaches. And when you're spraying for cockroaches, you're looking for these spots where the cockroaches hide. I hated cockroaches, but I needed the damn job. So I knew where they hid, but I used to never do my job. So I was going there, I usually raid the kitchen, get the food, and then leave them a bill. So this particular day, here I am spraying for cockroaches, and it's called the money spot. I put my wand in this hole, and in this hole, it went through, and it flushed out so many cockroaches that they were coming through the ceiling and landing on my head. And literally, as I continued spraying, rodents were just flying around the floor. This is why you sign a confidentiality agreement. So here I am, spraying for cockroaches, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm down, and cockroaches are pecking me in the back of my damn head, and I had this mask on my face, I had this canister of crap, and I'm fat as hell, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is my life. This is my entire life. So I had the bright idea, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to be the standard. I'm going to try to become the standard. So I quit my job, and I realized what the standard was to be a Navy SEAL. I looked at that standard, and I said, wow, I can't even run a mile. And you have to run 4 in a certain time, do an obstacle course, carry heavy packs. I said, I'm going to have to be the standard, which means whatever they say I have to do above that. So I was training this young man about 6 years ago. He worked for a financial company. His name is Joe. When he told me the standard for the company was doing 40 dials, having 6 meetings a day. Being the standard sometimes means you have to do 100 dials and have 16 meetings a day. And he went on to do that, and now he pretty much owns the damn company. And that was my mindset here. When I make a decision now, I have to make the decision to become the person that everybody else follows. Not the one that meets it, but the one that people look at saying, I have to be him. So I put that mentality into it. It wasn't easy, but I went back to the recruiter 2.5 months later, and that once big basketball head I had shrunk up. He didn't even know who I was. I walk in, 191 pounds. I get accepted to the program to try to be a Navy SEAL.